Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this week's guest on the Halcyon show is Jed Mitchell, aka Soul. And Soul is, for lack of a better phrase, the greatest battle rapper the UK has ever produced. He is a veteran battle rapper hailing from Fife, who originally debuted in Don't Flop in 2010 against Wee D. He has participated in over 50 battles, held the Don't Flop Championship for an extended period of time, and is renowned for both his intricate wordplay schemes, ferocious delivery, and his ability to work his way up the ranks of any division, any league, any promotion in the world. He is without a doubt one of the greatest lyricists of all time and an immensely impressive performer. And as you're about to see, extremely humble. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Soul.
Not really, though. I'm going to cut this boring piece of shit out at the beginning of the interview. Because, apparently most podcasters have this little preamble before the show, and I never really know what to say. Like,
the cold open.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you see that the sort of they usually big themselves up first. You know what I mean? Like, hi, Lorne, and I'm on the biggest podcast in the world. Blah blah blah. 10 minutes later, after they've plugged the fucking Patreon channel and every other source of income they could possibly think. Oh fuck, we've got a guest. Oh, it's so, you know what I mean? Like so. And my ridiculously stupidly big mug, so I'm going to put that there and hopefully ignore it. So I do have a little preamble, so I suppose we'll do that. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, for the second week in a row, holy fucking Jesus tap dancing Christ, it's Soul. How the hell are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Thank you very much for asking. I have an intro written for you, but I think one of the things that's interesting about you is you'd probably not enjoy me reading the intro because it's just a list of your accomplishments and accolades, being basically one of the best battle rappers that's ever lived and one of the finest lyricists that the British Isles has ever produced, in fact, nay, the world has ever seen. So I want to say thank you first and foremost for joining us today for this little chit chat about you and your career and just how you're a god in the sphere, but you would never ever take that compliment for what it's worth. You would probably disagree with me for various reasons first, and I find that fascinating about you. So I want to start with that first, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Your reverence in the battle rap scene, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about the fact that anyone worth their salt from, I mean, Shotty Horror shouted you out not too long ago for being one of the best battle rappers he's ever seen. Everyone I've ever seen in any interview I've ever seen has said Soul is just the man. And any performance of yours validates that opinion through and through. But how do you feel about that perception?
Yeah, I think it's
Sorry, I've really put you on the spot. I'm really sorry.
No, not at all. It's just I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't know if I guess like proud. Like I do take pride in the fact that like my peers think that I'm good at what I do. So I think that is probably the best sort of gauge for how good you are at something. So yeah, for something that I've dedicated like a lot of years and a lot of time and effort into being good at, to be recognized as being good at that thing by the same people that you respect and who like you see as good at that thing, and the people that you used to sort of aspire to be, saying that like they think that you're pretty good. It definitely like means a lot.
The bandages you put her in. Most women get a marriage certificate. She got a tramp stamp. Most women get a wedding ring. She got her hands wrapped. Most women get a picnic that they know is devout. She got a fucking referee. Like don't poke, scratch or gouge. Standing at the altar, going over her vows, and got a hole in her face before she even opened her mouth.
And yeah, so it's definitely like a good feeling. I don't know, like the. Yeah, I guess in part of my mentality has always just been about like sort of constantly improving and striving to be like better. So I try not to take it in too much, because I guess like I kind of agree with the sentiment that like once you're sort of content with something, that's kind of the death of your ambition, or was it like contentment's the death of ambition, or whatever they're saying, it's something like that. But yeah, so I always try and in my head not really focus too much on what I'm doing well, and focus more on what I could be doing better. And I think if you drink from your own Kool-Aid too much, yeah, not to go like too far off track, but I think that is a bit of a problem why like a lot of battlers do stagnate, because they're more concerned with what people think of them rather than just getting better, you know.
So I wanted to ask you about that, because that's something that, again, that stands you apart from your peers almost to a man, because one of the things that seems to be intrinsic in the battle rap scene is the fact that in order to be successful, you need to be able to do two things. Number one, eviscerate your opponent, obviously, but number two, you need to convince people of your status and your legitimacy. One of the things, though, that I don't see you really engaging in as far as battle rap is concerned is sort of the hyperbolic nature of battle rap. You don't paint yourself to be any better than you think you are, but you still back up exactly how good you think you are. Whereas a lot of other rappers, yeah, they do embellish and they do go overboard, but then you can almost see the fear in their eyes when someone like you steps up to say, can you prove it? Can you substantiate it? I can prove exactly how good I am. Listen to my lyrics.
Yeah.
So
I think.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So I was going to say, I think it sort of depends on what because you've said there that you need sort of two things to be successful, but I think to an extent it depends on like what your definition of success is. Like if your definition of success in battle rap is being like getting millions and millions of views and sort of driving like huge engagement and making like making like a lot of money out of battle rap or whatever, then like absolutely social media presence and hyping yourself up on like social media and then pre-battle interviews and selling the fight, so to speak, is definitely like a huge part of that. And if that's your definition of success, like I don't look down on that. It's just different to what my definition of success is. Like my goal has always just been to be as good at this as possible, and then like everything that I did in my career was sort of geared towards that one goal. Everything that's sort of come as that, and obviously I have had like some success, like from a sort of financial standpoint, and also like from like the stages that I've been allowed to perform on, like URL and King of the Dot, and that obviously those are brilliant opportunities, but it was never something that like, okay, I'm going to do this and this so that I can get to be on URL. I just focused on being as good as I could at this, shut absolutely like everything else out, and then that kind of stuff came as kind of like a byproduct of being like good at it. And I definitely think that had I done the other stuff, I would have had like more financial success, or like maybe been able to like get a few more views and a few more sponsorships or whatever. But ultimately that was not like what I wanted out of this. I think like when you start to treat something as a job, it starts to become like much less enjoyable, and a job was never what I wanted to make this. So
I'm a hard act to follow, like the last bit of Interstellar or Bernie Mac at the Apollo. If you kill me tonight, then you'll get battered tomorrow, cause he sucks at rematches. Ask Shotty Horror, Pat staying hollow. Yo!
One of the things that I think, again, is intrinsic about you is the fact that you seem to derive a lot of pleasure from not necessarily, like, watching your performances back. A lot of the crowd interaction is appreciated and welcome, but it almost it's interfering with your ability to be able to tell the story you want to tell in order to link everything you want to link it. So again, in battle rap a lot, you see guys sort of, come on everybody, come on, let's, you know what I mean? Like, again, it's this false sense of bravado that they're trying to infuse with the crowd reaction so they can feed off it and then in turn feed it back. Your approach seems to want to focus on, again, your opponent, because you've designed and sort of formulated the bars and the schemes in order to attack the opponent rather than necessarily to elicit crowd reaction, even to the point where I seem to recall you had a beginning of you went after the crowd. Was that the Raptor battle where you went after them by basically saying they forgot 27 or 28 of your rounds and they only remember the one?
Now that's out of my control. Still, I had to have my effort questioned. Like I hadn't been beheading since 2010 and just kept it stepping. Like I hadn't done 28 rounds in a year where the legends resting. Like I was them and left you stressing. Like I hadn't spent it representing. Like 6 months before, you hadn't elected Jed by referendum. Like I hadn't won the battle of the year right after stretching Nesson. Like I... You know what? Fuck it. But you want to talk shit about my memory? You're the ones that's been forgetting. Because I forgot 1 round. You forgot 27.
Yeah, that's the one.
Which, by the way, I've never, and I've watched a fair bit of battle rap. I don't remember anyone going after the people who are going to ultimately help the judges make the decision. You're the one person that I can ever remember basically turning to the crowd and saying, no, now you need to listen to me because I know what I'm talking about, and don't let this sway you because this is the point. And everyone unilaterally kind of going, do you know what? He's right. Like, I've never seen that reaction before. That's masterful. That ability to be able to go, look, I'm going to say this, and even though an initial visceral reaction from a normal crowd or a crowd might be one of, hang on a second, he's telling us we're wrong in how we feel, but at the same time having the confidence of the conviction to go, no, but they'll then side with me afterwards. That was incredible.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was just one of those ones where I kind of felt as though, honestly, like I'd love to be able to say like, yeah, exactly like I planned or whatever, but I didn't know like what the reaction would be. I thought that it could have quite easily been the reaction that you said most crowds would probably have had to most sort of approaches like that. I thought that was probably like the more likely outcome. But ultimately, it was like, at the end of the day, it was true.
100%. 100%.
So, and it was something that was like bothering me. So I was like, well, if I lose the battle for saying, or lose the crowd, and by extension of that, like lose the battle, as a result of saying something true or whatever, then I can live with that.
But see, I see a little twinkle in your eye as you say that, as if to say, like, I don't know, there's something so assured and confident in the way that you've approached the combination, the formulation of bars. Again, that appears to be more the juice than the reaction itself. Like, so what I wanted to ask before I went on my random tangent of praise, apologies for that by the way, is, so what would you say is your juice from the process? Because I think a lot of people, you've described what a lot of people want to get into this sort of stuff for. They do see it as a stepping stone or a means to an end, to be able to accrue a following, to build a brand, to accumulate monetary value from all of this, to be able to cash it in and then be able to say, oh, I don't have to do this anymore, so you're going to have to pay me even more to be able to come back, at which point, yeah, it becomes a job. You, on the other hand, again, but you know, in your own words, you know, that's not what drives you. So what would you say drove you or still drives you to this day in terms of taking a battle, knowing that you're going to approach it in a certain way, irrespective of what people are going to offer you, to be able to derail what your process is, how you want to accomplish this?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, I guess, like, do you mean, like, kind of like what my motivation is? Like, what I want out of battle rap? When I accept a battle, is that the question? Yeah,
so I mean, if you were to take a battle tomorrow, let's say, against me, you know, as ill-advised as that would be on my part, you know, we're going to sell out an arena somewhere, we're going to sell out a venue somewhere, but sure. You know, but there are people that are going to approach you in the interim period to say, hey, I know that you're writing today, but really what we need you to do is come and do this other thing that's going to take up probably more of your time than we say it's going to, and you know, we're then going to, so all these distractions start creeping up that are going to they're going to reward you monetarily, but then when the day comes to go on stage, your performance isn't going to be what you would have wanted it to be. So what motivates you in that moment? Well, like, what's the satisfaction that you want to derive from that process?
Ultimately, I don't really care how many people see it. Like, I just want it to be as good as it possibly can be for both me and the people, like, that do see it, you know? Like, I'm not really... And I've had, like, some pretty, like, notable battles or whatever, but I've never really done any kind of promotion on them. Like, usually I'll send out one tweet or something just to let people know that I'm battling and like what the date is and where it is. But like in the run up to battles, like if sort of any spare time that I have is focused on like just preparing for the battle. Like, the performance is really the only thing that I care about. I don't care really about if we sell out the arena. I don't care if we get to the venue and there's 10 people there or if there's 1,000 people there. It's as long as the performance is what I want it to be, then yeah, that's all I really care about.
Do you consider yourself a performer then? I've made a note here to say that you don't, but I wanted to ask you whether or not you do, because you've mentioned, I believe in an interview, but I think it's also one of your bars, that your battles aren't a persona. They're not something that you put on to elicit the response from the crowd. They're extensions of you, but just with a microphone to an effect. So do you?
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a performer? I guess I would ask is the question.
To an extent, I think like we all are. I'm certainly much. I mean, you can tell already through the course of this interview, I'm certainly much louder on stage than I am. Like, just my general sort of vibe. I'm pretty like laid back dude in general. And obviously, like on stage, you can't really do that. So you're certainly like Well, I can only speak for myself. I'm performing to an extent that I am heavily like exaggerating existing parts of my personality. I wouldn't say that like I fabricate parts of my personality or pretend to be something that I'm not. But parts of my personality that are maybe shown like quite uncommonly are obviously then just like turned up to 11 and brought to the forefront for the purposes like of the performance. So I would say, yeah, I am a performer to an extent, but it's not like just a completely other dude up there, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not like I don't recognize the person up there when I see my battles back.
The last 2 rounds, I know that I'll get him. So for this one, send shocks to hell, I'm about to send this joker to heaven. From when he turns and he awakes and starts stirring in his grave, to when he looks up at the sky, sees the pearliness awaits as he's returning to the saint spirit desert in his remain. Just kidding, motherfuckers! I'll learn from my mistakes!
Let's go, Sean! Let's fucking go, Sean!
Just kidding, motherfuckers! I learned from my mistakes. I'm back snapping the mash band to get thumped like a jackrabbit. Lumberjack with bad habits and snap that you can't hack it.
Because it seems almost like, because I can feel almost a reticence to say the word perform. Like don't call it like it. I tell you what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Billy Corgan did an interview with Joe Rogan once when he was discussing the music industry signing them for the first time for a proper contract, and the way they were describing the band's album was so when we get the product. And they were, product, man. Why you like, dude? We make music. Why do you need to recontextualize it to make it sound more glitzy or glamorous or commercially viable than it already? It's just music, man. And you'll sign us if we're good. You won't sign us if we're bad. So, I mean, do you get a little bit frustrated with sort of, because again, it feels odd to say because battle rap, it is the name of the game. It's the odd dichotomy. Hype up the crowd to begin the battle. Fucking make some noise. Okay, now quiet everybody. It's like, a weird sort of, because you are there to perform, and in order to perform you need people to listen and be receptive, and they need to catch everything that you're saying in order for it to have the resonance that you presumably want it to have. But then you also want them motivated to not only pay to see you, but also to carry a good positive energy, so that the promoter presumably, gets a return on investment and then books you again. So, like, how do you reconcile that, considering that, I mean, and maybe I'm making a presumption there based on that, but
I would say I didn't really have any concern about, maybe like very early on I would have, like, obviously, I enjoy doing this, so I hope they invite me back or whatever. But once I was past a certain point that I was like established on the roster, like, I don't want to be like arrogant or whatever, but like I could battle whenever I want. Do you know what I mean? Like
the only battle rapper I've ever heard in my entire life say the words, "I don't want to be arrogant."
Yeah.
It's just, this is what I'm saying. It's almost ridiculous to hear that from someone in that genre of music, considering it seems like part of your job almost is to convince everyone you've got the biggest gun in the world. It's made of gold, and you carry it in a convoy of camper vans that are personally in your employ. And that's why I find you so fascinating as a performer, because not only do you have that stage presence and that charisma, you have the skills to back up any claim that you'd want to make, and yet you still focus on the purity of the craft of battle rap, which is, how do I make this as intrinsic and as interesting and as flawless as I can, and how can I convince the crowd and the judges that I am the better rapper while also undermining and diminishing my opponent's abilities. That's why I think people think you're a performer's performer, and why they're completely validated in that opinion.
I think it might be kind of like some of the reason that like I've been a bit like less motivated to do it recently, because I feel like I'm pretty close to like having it solved, like in terms of like how to put on a performance that elicits reaction in the right places, and like builds arcs and bring it back down, and like when to peak and how to execute the peak, and then how to execute like the down tempo stuff. And like I've been doing it like quite a long time, and I'm not like generally like I'll go back and watch like my old battles and like look at like what didn't work, like what wasn't good, and then try and pick apart like why it didn't land. And I've been doing that for, what was it now, 2022, so like so debuted on Don't Flop like 12 and a half years ago almost.
I have I should have this is part of my preamble that I didn't make, because I don't want to make you too so I mean okay, let's do this bit now instead of at the beginning of the interview.
I wasn't fishing for it. I was just saying, like, I've been doing it for so long now, and like through that process, it hasn't been like a mindless process for me, where I've just been going through the motions and taking battles. It's been like something I've really, really tried very hard to learn from each of my battles, and I'm pretty sure that if I watched like my battles back, and I would never do this, because that sounds like hell, especially the early stuff. But like if I was to watch them all in chronological order, I could point out things that I took from the previous battle that worked well, and things that I didn't do again that like didn't work. So after doing that for like 12 and a half years, that constant like sort of small improvements, both in like how I prepare and the types of techniques that I know that work versus what I know don't, like I'm at a point now where I feel like with my limitations, the sort of natural limitations, like for example, something that doesn't really get spoken about a lot in like rap music is like people's voices. Like, are their voices like pleasant to listen to?
Sure.
You might have like the best writer in the world or whatever, but like for me, I'm still gonna rather listen to like fucking Biggie, because his voice is like very nice to listen to. I'm not saying he couldn't write, but obviously like Biggie's not like fucking top 100 lyricists ever, but he had a very like nice flow to listen to, and his voice was like very cool. So like if you don't have that, that's kind of like a natural limitation. Obviously, like my kind of like location and my accent or whatever is going to be like a limiter for like how good you get. There's certain accents that just like sound better for rap than other accents, and it just is what it is. So in terms of like the stuff that I can control, like I think I'm pretty close to as good as I can get at it. And I think maybe that's kind of where I've been like a little bit less motivated recently, because I don't really see the same. Sounds like such a fucking arsehole thing to say, but I don't really see the same room for improvement as I have like in previous years.
Okay, so you're saying that you... Well, I'm not going to say you're saying it's fucking shit to do as an interviewer, because you just said what you were said, and we all heard what you said. I guess what I want to infer from that is, because I can relate to that. I'm a gamer, so one of the things that you do as a gamer is that your insatiable need to complete the thing. You start the thing and it feels overwhelming, you learn the thing, you get good, and then suddenly you can't... There's not enough content. You want to consume, but then the game, it's done. And the best thing you can do is press New Game Plus and play the game on God mode, in effect. Now, but that's boring. There's no challenge at that point, and there's nothing new. So there's nothing. Yes, you can accrue a higher score, or you can do things again, but in a preferable way. But it doesn't have something about the romantic side of that game is lost, and it's always gone. I mean, you can always experience it in nostalgic ways, but even then, it's not the same as the first time you do it when you're learning and getting good. One of the things that people do in that situation then is that they either switch genres, or they take up something in a different realm, or they maybe take it competitively or something along those lines. So if that's how you feel about battle rap as your art form right now, do you think that when you get to that level in your own mind, you don't have to be obtuse, you can look at it like that and say, look, I just know where I am, I know where I've been, I know where I could go, and I know where I want to go, but when I hit that point, I mean, the interest level is going to drop. But is there another way that you think that you're going to apply everything that you've learned as a live performer, as a writer, as all of these skills that you've accrued over the last? Because I have it here. The debut was 2010 on Don't Flop against a Wee D, and that's... I felt it incumbent, because I haven't seen that battle. But again, I didn't want that to colour. But I had this thing.
It really is. No, it really is. I'm not just saying that.
So this is your plea to everybody: don't go.
Don't watch that battle.
Go watch it.
No, please don't watch it. That's really, really bad.
Okay, don't go watch his first battle. Go watch my first video, then go watch his first battle, and then you'll see he's got nothing to worry about.
And so get angry and flame. Bitch, it's honestly nothing. Because if Weedy thinks he'll beat me, he's obviously bluffing. In fact, apologise right now to all the YouTube watchers that's sulking for having bars so whack they'll have to disable the high quality button.
I guess then what the question would be is, I mean, do you see a path forward once you get to that mental level of, look, I just don't have the motivation for this anymore? But I mean, just speaking for fans of you, man, that it'd be devastating to hear that you're not going to write lyrics anymore. That would be a fucking travesty.
Yeah, no, I do still write. Like, I've got almost fucking like albums worth of like lyrics on my computer or whatever. But I write because it's fun. I love writing. Like, I'll never stop writing lyrics or whatever. Like, I love the creative process of writing lyrics, and that's probably something I'll continue on for the rest of my life. And if that's the one thing that like I take from battle rap, like the ability to write lyrics that I enjoy reading back or like rapping to myself, like in my fucking bedroom over YouTube beats at fucking 1 a.m, then that's fucking plenty for me, man. Like, I think a lot of people... Something I heard recently, actually, I can't remember where I heard it, but it's so true, and this is like miles off topic, but it's like our generation has been like the death of hobbies. You know what I mean? Like, yes. No one has, like, a lot of people that I know or whatever, it's like they don't actually have like a hobby, they have like a side hustle. It's like, oh, what do you do when you're not working? It's like, oh, well, what I do is like fucking go on Facebook Marketplace, and then I look for like items that are like less than what the current market value is, and then I buy them, and then I like sell them on and it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, that sounds fucking awful. And it's like, so if someone would look at like maybe this skill set that I have, where I could possibly, but I mean, obviously, like I could, if I wanted to like use the skill set to just continue to make money, then I could do that. But like at the expense of like A, my enjoyment of it, and B, my free time that I'd rather spend doing something else. And you might look at it and be like, oh, but you have this skill set and you're not utilizing it to like produce anything. Like for me, like I don't know, I think looking at something, basing something's merit purely on like what you can produce from it is kind of the wrong way to look at life, for me anyway.
Couldn't agree with you. No, couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, because I golf. I'm not good at golf. Like my handicap's 13, and I'm 31, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to make the fucking PGA Tour. You know what I'm saying? I think that ship might have fucking sailed. So there's nothing that's going to actually be productive that comes out of me playing golf, but I really enjoy doing it.
Sure.
And it's the same with like writing lyrics. Like maybe nothing will ever like come out of it productive, but if I enjoy doing it, and it's a skill set that I've developed to a point where I can do it well enough to enjoy it, then I think that's more than enough for me. And Battle Rap's already given me like so much. Like I've been able to see like so many parts of the world, meet so many people that like I otherwise wouldn't have. I have friendships that wouldn't have happened like if I hadn't been involved in this weird subculture. Like I'm from a fucking tiny town, like in fucking the middle of nowhere in Scotland. Like there's no way I would have been able to go to places that I've been or meet the people that I have, like if it wasn't for this weird thing and like dedicating so much time to it. So I don't really have any need for it to produce any more than it already has. It's already produced more than I could ever have thought it would have. So
the death of hobbies, I'd never heard that expression before, although I completely agree with it. What I think is sort of the burden this generation's creators are going to have is that everything can be monetized in some form or fashion, and therefore they are incentivized to produce everything to be monetized, as opposed to what I was taught in school to a certain degree, which is that you know, in order to be an artist or something, a craft or something that you invariably want to achieve a mastery of, you have to start down here and you have to earn up to a certain point. Now, yeah, some people can maybe pick up on certain things that you do if you develop a niche, or you know, you have a certain something about you. But ultimately, your task is to get good and then to try and make a go of it. Whereas now, because of things like TikTok, because of YouTube, and because of the way that they incentivize the algorithm and a lot of different things, it's difficult to make the argument to someone that you should. What do you like to do? I like to write lyrics for battle raps. Okay. Are you any good right now? Well, no, not really. I can't do many multi-syllable rhymes. And so, okay, but keep going. As opposed to what they might see is, no, I'll just write mum jokes and just make the last word rhyme, but I know I can get a big crowd reaction, and therefore that's going to sort of circumnavigate a lot of the hard work that I have to do, and that's going to get me noticed. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good or a bad thing. You know, I'd say it's a bad thing, because then the diversity of content tends to die. You tend to see a lot of the same things over and over again, which again is something that you see in rap a lot, I think. I don't know if you agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, your own experience.
No, I think like
especially because again, you were in battle rap when sort of Luna was coming up, and a lot of these other things were happening where other people were starting to emulate that, and then that became somehow the benchmark as opposed to what people prior to that represented, and then that's evolved to a certain point. Like, what are your feelings on that sort of thing?
I would just say that like Lunar Sea wasn't like this like revolutionary style or anything.
No, of course
he was
not.
just the best. He was just the best at doing it. Like it was this. Lunar Sea was honestly like the style that he had was just like the prevalent style at the time.
Yeah.
And he was just by far the best at it. So like when I came into battle rap, like when I debuted on Don't Flop or whatever, this sort of Lunar Sea style, a more kind of like basic version and not as good version. Because full disclosure, I actually think Lunar Sea is very good. like at what he does. I think he's actually quite like a underrated in sense of like how good he is technically at like writing bars. And I think he almost has the Rick and Morty thing where his fan base like do you get what I'm saying? Like,
yes,
can turn people off him a bit. So
fan bases can be terrible sometimes for the performers. It has to be said, but
they can,
sorry.
they can almost like ruin, like, well, not ruin, but you know what I mean. They can make people form opinions on the product, not the product, but the thing that they otherwise like wouldn't have had.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So like, but yeah, when I came into battle rap, the style that I was doing was not prevalent at all. It was like very like wordplay and simile based and kind of like very kind of multi-syllabic heavy, and that was not popular at the time, but it's a style that I enjoyed writing, and it's a style that like I wanted to get as good as possible at, and I didn't really care if it was ever popular, really. I just wanted to get good at what I enjoyed doing, and I think what it is that you enjoy doing, like, yeah, obviously it's battle rap, but within that you can battle rap it in different ways. You know what I mean? You can be a battle rapper like me, or you could want to be like the best, or you might want to be the funniest battle rapper. You might want to be like the most technical battle rapper. You might want to be like the most aggressive battle rapper, or fucking the most famous battle rapper. You can have a lot of different fucking goals and aspirations within this like weird sub hobby and this subculture or whatever. And I think because I came in at a time where the style I was doing wasn't the prevalent style, and then obviously when Lunar came around, that was exacerbated kind of like even more, because as you say, more people wanted to try and like emulate that. I think one of those things that I guess I was kind of fortunate that when the tide shifted and people had more of an appetite to hear like that can be like a different type of style. I had already been practicing it at that point for like 6 years, and then a lot of other people who sort of do just kind of like clout chase a bit were having to like learn it from scratch kind of thing, which was fortunate for me in a lot of ways, but again, it wasn't like what I was aiming for, and I didn't like anticipate it. It just kind of was very fortunate.
Like Hansel and Gretel, you can't handle this level. I battled the best and travelled for several Canada's vets. Out Atlanta for Ness and Africa's next. They'll happily shell you for thinking that you are special. Get your head wrapped in your boat rock like Somalian rebels,
When you're writing then, what do you go through in terms of, I mean, do you like to research? Do you like to start backwards in terms of writing schemes? Like, take me through what, like the excitement, for instance, of me in this interview, getting the nod and then going, right, okay, I need to find everything out about this person that I possibly can because I want to have a million questions, and that's exciting. It's invigorating to try and find that. So in your own experience, what's that like?
If you have a battle that you're like very motivated to do, it's a really like exciting process, the writing process. I love it. I don't understand like how people can leave it so late, because for me it's like the best part. Like why you would.
I do hear people bragging from time to time that they wrote it the night before or 2 nights before, and whether or not that's true, fair enough.
And it's
but...
like shit, dude. Even if it is, man, that's the fun part. Like, well, for me anyway. But fucking like. In terms of like my writing process, it's like changed quite a lot like over the years, and it's gone through like different phases, and now it's almost like unrecognizable to what it was at the start. Like at the start, my writing process would just be like, just think of like the fucking best punchlines you could, the best sort of double entendres, and then just work backwards, and then work out like what rhymes with it. And then that's kind of matured from there. It went like to doing, like you say, like very heavy research, and then after a few years realized that it's a bit fucking stupid to do like extremely in-depth research on an opponent, because then it just means that the people that watch it have to have done the same level of research to understand what it is that you're talking about.
Yeah,
So
unique
that's
problem
what-
within battle rap is sometimes where you're making
Yeah.
when you know you're making an excellent point and you go, none of you got that? Like,
Yeah, none of you.
Oh wait,
What, you
no.
didn't watch his battle from 2007? What?
You don't remember you don't remember this specific moment in this specific battle that, you know, by his own admission. Yeah, I can totally understand that. That's fair enough.
So then that is like another evolution. And now like my writing process is just so fucking like abstract that it's like crazy. It's like I almost like write it out and like it's kind of hard to like verbalize it, but it's like I can almost like hear the sort of the tempo of how I want the battle to go. So like rather than thinking in terms of like, okay, here's all the things that I want to say to him, how do I say that in like the best way possible? It's like I think, all right, he has like really high energy or whatever, so I want to start mine off slow. So let's start it off like down tempo with like a 4-bar scheme, and then from there I'm gonna do like another 4-bar scheme, and then I want to pick up the tempo, so I'm gonna do an 8-bar scheme with 16 multis in it, so it's rapid fire back to back. But that's gonna do one of two things. It's either gonna pop the crowd during it, or it's gonna just get kind of like the kind of like muted reaction. So then what I'll do is after that 8-bar scheme, I'll do a 2-bar scheme where none of the syllables match any of the previous syllables in the previous rhyme scheme, so it's complete contrast. And because it's a 2-bar scheme, 1-bar setup, punch that contrast with the previous 8 bars. Then I'll do a 4, and like even that, like describing that to you in my head, I'm like, yeah, that would work. Like, so it's like I'm at a point where I can kind of like hear like how a battle should sound, and then once I have the structure, I'll like write it down almost like musical, not like musical notation, but I'll have like a line bit of paper and then just be like 4 bars, like on these 4 lines, 4 bars, then 8 bars, and then like do little lines like where the multis should be, and then like 2 bars and where the end multis should be, how long the multi-syllable rhyme scheme should be, and almost like write it out vertically like it is like a piece of music. And then once you have that structure, you just need to fill it in with words. And because I know I can write well, I just like trust myself that I'll be able to fill that in with words that sound good. So like my process now is just like so wildly different to like when I started, and it's just evolved like so many times that but that's where we're at now, basically.
See, I don't know if you have anything that you're particularly passionate about, where if you saw someone break it down like that I'm grinning like an idiot, because literally watching you, because you went off in a moment there, you weren't here anymore, and you were in the middle of, you were like an artist sketching out something like, well, I suppose this could go here, and then this could go here, and this would. I was watching you compose something in your own mind, even if you weren't. And I think that's incredible. That's an amazing talent to be able to just. It was like it was just there, and the fact that you have that ability in your locker is like. It's why it's so almost infuriating that you won't accept the reverence, because that truly, and I've not known the top tier battle rappers, and I've not known many musicians in my life, but I've known a few, and the process, at least as I've seen it, because I've designed a few album covers in my time, and I've helped people with some shooting some videos or some stuff. I have a phone, and that can shoot video these days.
Yeah.
But like watching them, I know, right? Yeah, I'm so nouveau riche. But even watching them kind of go through the process of trying to, even where to start. Like a lot of them just don't have that second nature, innate ability to go. This is what's gonna work from here, and then we can go from here, and then you can go from here. That natural ability is ridiculous, and I think that's why
I don't know
people.
that it's a talent, though.
Well, this is the
I
thing.
don't think it's a talent.
Yeah, you do say. I mean, you mentioned it in a previous interview, but you've come a long way, especially in terms of your original perceptions of crowd performance versus now. Because you mentioned originally in an interview, I believe, that originally you wanted to focus on your opponents because Oh gosh, my notes are. See, look, if I was any good at this, I'd be good at taking notes. But instead, I've just scribbled down things like the influence he has had on other rappers, even down to bars and schemes others utilize / Marlowe. Like, what the fuck? I don't know what I remember. I don't remember what I was watching when I saw that. Anyways, the fact is though that you seem to have a true love for the process, and at that point that the process then becomes something that isn't something that you can then focus on. You kind of lose a bit of that. So I guess what I wanted to ask was, considering battle rap is kind of a niche art form, at least it is to me, because and again, I hope this doesn't come across as a knock. It's like when I try and get people into wrestling. It's the same thing. It's like, oh, battle rap. Like, why do you like that? And it's like, just listen to them, man. Just listen to what they do with the same words you have in your disposal, and then listen to what they do with them. Tell me it's not fucking amazing watching Soul go off on someone for an entire... The one round that stands out for me in doing my research, because I've watched your battles, but watching them back is a trip, because obviously I've not seen some of them sometimes, and now watching you in Premier battles is a trip as well, because it's just awesome seeing you come. I mean, you and Shuffle in lockdown, fucking hell, what a godsend. I was so happy to see that battle pop up in my feed when I was like, Soul's battling Shuffle, holy shit. But like the Raptor bar, the Raptor rounds.
Most women have their dad on their arm, and a glimmer in their eye. She had a cast on her arm, and stitches down the side. That's the reason he left Mosh Team Shotty dicking down his bride, but that ain't the first time someone's been hitting on his wife. You don't deserve a second chance to live a greater life. I don't think you paid the price. She still sits awake at night. If you think in here tonight, he'll put his career in flight. Judges taking it away like your visitation right.
Just... I wasn't expecting... Watching it back, I forgot how much intent and vicious you were at certain points, but then how you bring it back, and then how you go back into the intricacies of the wordplay, and like, you're a master of your craft, man. And I think... I know, I'm right. I'm white, so I know I sound cringy as I say this. I know I'm dick riding a little bit here, but frankly, like with most interviews I've conducted, I can at least replicate some of what the person has done to a certain degree in order to articulate the point I'm trying to make. But your stuff, man, it's on another level to the level that I'm used to in terms of repeating what I've heard and trying to infer what I've said. I can only hear it and just kind of... What's a man supposed to do here? You know what I mean? So that's why I think I want to get to that, because I think what I'd love to kind of understand is what it takes to get to that level of mastery. Because I think that's really where a lot of content creators should be looking to go before they go the easy route. They should be looking to go, look at how good Soul is at what he does, right? And look at the interest he has in that versus what he can monetize. Now, if he wants to monetize it at any point in his career, that's completely his choice. But at least then he can stand on his own 2 feet when it comes to what he's producing and why he's producing it. He can call his own shots because he's got that level of mastery. So, but I imagine that wasn't easy to attain.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And you're talking about like motivation and like how people go apart. To be honest, like it's one of those things where, if, like, say someone is like where you are, not where you are, but let's say someone is like.
What were you saying, man? We're saying
no.
Where I am.
I'm saying they're thinking about. Let's say someone who's like thinking about getting into YouTube because they like to do it for a job, right?
100%.
That person will be very unlikely to ever achieve that because they don't actually they don't love it, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I have no interest in like doing YouTube whatsoever. If I was like to sit down and be like, okay, I'd like to make YouTube my career, I will fail like dramatically at it because I will burn out trying to put in the effort required to get there because I don't love it. So you need advice for like anyone trying to get to like a level of mastery of any craft is you need to find like an actual craft that you love. And then if you do love it, like you will get there, because putting in the effort won't feel like a chore. If it feels like draining to put in that effort, it's not going to be like sustainable to put in like the effort that you need. Like if you look at fucking anyone that's ever been like fucking great at anything, like Kobe Bryant or whatever, like you don't wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the fucking gym and shoot 10,000 free throws without absolutely fucking loving putting a ball into a basket. And it doesn't matter like how arbitrary a thing it is, that is what he loved doing, and he reached a level of mastery at it because he was not even willing, because he wanted to put in that effort. So if it's something that you feel like, I need to find like some motivation to do it, just quit. Because if you're struggling to find the motivation to do it, it's not for you. It's not the thing that you're meant to be doing. And I don't mean like, quit your job and go find yourself. Obviously, you need to put like fucking food on the table. But I mean like, in terms of like this, for me, this isn't a job for me, and it never will be a job, and it'll never pay enough money to like mean I don't have to work anymore. But it's what my passion was, and it's what I wanted to get good at, and I did, because it didn't feel like a chore or whatever to do it. So I think that's kind of motivation. Should just, if motivation is a concern, then you're just kind of doing the wrong thing, I think.
I think that's as close as I'm going to get to you admitting that you're a master of this, isn't it? I'm not going to get you to say the words that I am the greatest that there's ever been and I am the best, and you can all kiss my ass and peace, and you're not gonna admit it, are you? I figured I would try and at least get you close.
I am pretty good. I'm not bad.
And to my right, let's go! Representing 5 Scotland, let's go! And that glorious, glorious Shark City Battle Club, the greatest ever! Make a little noise! The Soul! We've got soul! Always believe in your soul! You got the power to know you're indestructible! Always believe it! We've got soul!
If you do like those stupid Facebook questions, like when you go, if you could take £10 million now or go back to when you were 10 years old, I'm like, well, yeah, it'd be fun to go back to when I was 10 years old, but I'll take the £10 million now because I know exactly how the fuck I'd spend that money rather than giving it to 10-year-old me. It'd be a stupid idea.
Do you mean like 10 million, like go back to 10 years old, like current day, so I'm 10 years old in 2022, or do you mean like 10 years old back in like 2001? Because if it was back in 2001 and I've got 10 million pounds, I think there's limited damage I could do with it. If I'm 10 million in 2022, probably 10-year-old me would buy some fucking picture of an ape or something. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not back in the use of the 10 million. So yeah, I think I would probably agree with you, man. I'd probably just take the 10 million.
Well, because look, 10 million. That's. I don't know if you've had this conversation with anyone, but I've had the Euro Millions debate with people, because I try and put a spin on it, which is you win 180 million pounds, 190 million pounds, okay, but you're only allowed to buy one thing, okay? Because I want you to be creative with the question. I don't want you to give me the same bollocks of I'd buy a house, I'd buy a car, I'd do all this. Okay, cool. Every fucker says the same thing, which is I'd invest it.
Yeah.
You've got 180 million fucking pounds. How much do you need? How much more money do you need?
Exactly. If I had 180 million pounds, I'd probably buy a golf course.
Just buy a golf course. What would you? Okay, let's follow this rabbit. What would you call it?
I'd buy like a bitchin' golf course. No, I'd buy an already established one. Fuck like building it from the ground up.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'd take like a really good golf course and just say,
just it's mine now.
Yeah, bitch, that's mine.
That's mine.
Yeah.
Oh, would you do? Go on, sorry.
I'd let other people play on it. I wouldn't just be like, oh, this is my own private like thing and no one's allowed in, put big fucking walls up. But I'd like to have something that be like, yeah, this is mine, and you just go there anytime I want. Fucking own the gaff.
Would you do the Rockstar thing though? So don't tell anyone, rock up to the course in just whatever the fuck you like and say, yeah, so I've got a round schedule today, and you have Jeeves. Sorry, sir. what makes you think we're going to let you in here? And you go, because I own the thing, bitch!
No, controversially, I actually like wearing golf clothes. I think they're very comfortable. Like, so a lot of people don't have a problem with like golf dress code, but I find the clothes, like if I could wear anything to play around a golf, I would wear golf clothes anyway.
Okay.
So rolling up in the like Hawaiian shirt, buttoned down to like the very last button with like a big gold medallion and like khaki shorts. I mean, it would be a cool moment to be like, bitch, I own this place, but at the same time, you've then got to play 18 holes dressed like that. I don't know if the juice is worth a squeeze.
Oh, I mean, just the once, maybe, but then again...
Yeah, maybe once.
But then again, I feel like, again, if you ask that question to a lot of this generation, they're thinking to themselves, right, what's the answer I can give that's the most Snapchatable? As opposed to, like, what would just be cool for you, man? Like I always said, and this is the dumbest answer to the question I can possibly give, I win the Euro Millions, tomorrow I go to the bank, I get 50 grand in £5 notes in a bag, I find my original boss and I beat them to death with it, and I give them the bag as compensation because it's 50 grand. They're not going to say no. And I can literally say, I beat you with my wallet, bitch. Now who's amounted to nothing?
So that's pretty Snapchatable, man.
Well, I was 16 and the boss was like, the boss was telling me like you should turn up to work on time and you shouldn't turn up to work without, your shirt tucked in and all this other bollocks. I totally disagreed with at the time. Now I'm old, so yeah, maybe I should have just fucking turned up when I was supposed to be paid to turn up and wear the dress code that I was supposed to. But 16-year-old me was pissed off hearing that shit, let me tell you. Anyways, sorry, I could ask you stupid questions all day. 50 Cent or Kanye? Is that still the 50 Cent? No, sorry, Kanye over 50 Cent. I asked it better the first time. Fuck. Is it still Kanye over 50 Cent for you?
Yes. I think like Kanye West first albums are better than anything 50 Cent has done. And I feel like neither of them are making particularly good music now, so I'd rather just base it on who has had like the best like career pre the fall off, I guess. And Late Registration's like one of my favorite hip hop albums ever, and College Dropout's obviously incredible. So yeah, I think probably Kanye, and as well just for like services to music, like Kanye is an incredible producer as well. So yeah, for me it's still Kanye over 50. I mean, I think the guy's a fuckhead or whatever, but if you're talking about like actual musical talent, then yeah, it's got to be Kanye.
Well, that leads me to a question. Side note: College Dropout got me through my 2 weeks work experience at McDonald's, and I'll be forever grateful to Kanye West for that. Fucking hell, kids! If you ever want to learn what the value of a real job is, work at Mackie D's with no pay for 2 weeks, and I guarantee you'll never want to. You'll want a proper job after that. Anyway, I've been trying to drill down on some pretty intricate topics in this conversation so far. Still haven't quite gotten you to say you're the greatest to have ever done it and never will do it, and then everyone should basically just give up now and just give you the title and just let that be that. Not going to get you to do that, which is absolutely fine. I do want to kind of get into your influences though before we conclude this conversation, because I think one of the interesting things to talk about is where we derive our inspiration from. And again, listening back to some of your battles, it's a trip listening to some of the things that you reference, the things you bring up. MMA seems to be something that is on the tip of a lot of battlers' tongues at the moment, because I think they want to again add that contemporary element, and boxing doesn't seem to have that same sort of cadence with the battle rap scene these days, because there's Joshua, Fury, and then no one can name another boxer, so it doesn't quite have that same I'm a boxing fan, so I could, but it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, and I'm gonna bang you out like Tyson Fury. If you named any other boxer, they just, who? He's a boxer. Like, oh, okay, fair enough. How are you planning on getting into the MMA bars anytime soon? Are you planning on dropping a McGregor bar, or perhaps a Prahechka? I forget his name.
I can't pronounce the second name. Jiri Prochaska?
Yes.
Jiri,
yes. The samurai-inspired. He's from the Czech Republic, I believe.
Yeah, Jiri Violence. Yeah, no, I don't have anything written about. I don't know. I've written an MMA bar in quite some time. I think the last combat sports bar or athlete I referenced was Lomachenko, actually. But yeah, I don't have anything on the slate for MMA bars as of yet. To be quite frank, like I watch a lot less of it than I used to. So that tends to be like what I take my subject matter from, like kind of what I'm enjoying, like at the time.
Is there a reason why your MMA interest is, just out of benign curiosity, is there a reason why the MMA interest has dropped off? Because I, again, weirdly enough, am kind of there with you as far as the MMA interest. It's still there, but it's just, I'm not really that hyped to see anyone at the moment.
I think a lot of things happened that kind of like killed my interest in it. Just the way that they were kind of treating the fighters, and to be frank, like the way that Dana White treats his fighters, especially, like really just doesn't really sit very well with me.
So you're not in his camp where they get a Performance Institute and they get more money than they would on the independent circuit, and they're listen, they don't need to worry about getting sponsors. Okay, there's this company called Reebok. Okay, big deal. We're going to put their brand on, and we're going to give them some money. Obviously, we get paid too, but we're not going to talk about that. That doesn't sit well with you at all, no?
No, I mean,
no, you're a decent human being, basically, is what you're saying. I see how it is.
No, specifically, on the issue of like fighter pay, I think it's pretty awful, the percentage of their gross income that they pass on to their athletes. And I know they make the argument that their pay structure is flatter than boxing, so the people at the bottom of an MMA card will earn more than the people at the bottom of like a boxing card, which to an extent, like, yeah, that is true, but it's still far less than you could afford to pay them. You could still maintain a flat structure and just pay the people at the bottom more, but I don't know, maybe that's my working class socialist roots showing or whatever.
You're going to be preaching to a choir on that one, because I've always been of the same opinion, which is if someone wants to say you're earning enough as it is, my question is, well, why are you earning exponentially more than you were this time last year? There can't be a disparity between the classes if we're all in it together, as the mantra was during COVID. And yeah, you're right. In UFC, the line seems to be, if you take the whole spectrum into consideration, actually what we do is quite fair. And you go, right, but then no, we're not doing that. We're taking your organization into account, and your organization pays the fighters 20% of the income the company generates. Yeah. And they're what generate the income. So in what way does that make sense from an incentive perspective? I kind of get that. And
also, like, obviously, like, there are other like organizations like out there. You watch like Bellator or Cage Warriors or whatever, One Championship FC. But to be frank, I don't find their product like particularly good.
Well, Bellator is coming along. It's just it's still not. It's still in its what I would call the TNA phase, which is it's an alternative. But it's an alternative that no one's really excited about.
They have a good like roster. Like, their actual like fighters that they have signed to them, they have like solid fighters. But yeah, just something about like the product is just like, I don't know if it's the commentary team or I don't know. Like, and I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot a bit doing like Chael versus Tito, and it's just like,
oh man,
at a certain point, it's like, what? It's what are you, right? Like, as an organization, what is it are you trying to do? Are you trying to like do these money fights between the big names of yesteryear that are just horrible fights to what, like, the level in that fight is like abysmal.
The question I have, music. A lot of battle rappers use battle rap as an avenue to get into music, or they have aspirations to become actors or comedians or any other entertainment format. Obviously, with you've expressed kind of a love of the process. I would have thought music is something that would speak to that, because obviously there's any number of levels of production that go into the making of an album, from just the aesthetics to the sounds to the influences and then when you get to finally writing the lyrics. So is it something you've ever considered?
No, not seriously. I've never seriously considered doing it. Maybe once or twice in passing, when people are like, "Oh, you should record something," and you're kind of like, "Oh yeah, maybe," but then kind of quickly dismiss it. I love, like you say, I love the process of it, and I do write songs for my own kind of enjoyment. But the same thing, I always say, when people ask me why I don't make music, is because I wouldn't listen to it.
Okay. So
yeah.
Okay, interesting. So is it?
Sorry, I'll
go ahead,
rephrase that I'll rephrase that slightly. If I wasn't me, and an exact copy of me made the music that I would make, I wouldn't listen to it. Because I probably would listen to it if it was me that made it, because I'd want to hear is it good? How could I improve? But I wouldn't be if an exact copy of me made the music that I would make, I wouldn't listen to it. And it kind of goes back to the point earlier in the interview, music for me is about sonics or whatever, and whether something is pleasant to listen to, and it's unfortunately I suppose it's subjective, but for me, I don't think I have a pleasant voice to listen to, especially over rapping, and that's a big part of it.
Disagree, but just because I'm not gonna let you rag on yourself without at least chiming in and saying what? No, I think it is subjective 100%, because I think especially in this day and age with so many creators coming at things from so many different angles and perspectives, it is all about finding the hook. It's just, where do you slot in? Because sooner or later, and again, to your point, maybe you're not rivaling Ed Sheeran anytime soon for the Christmas #1. That's fair enough. But there's almost no limit to the potential that social media and the internet has afforded creators in this day and age, when it is just about, so long as it's good, that's the thing. It is just the thing of, is it good, yes or no, rather than does it fit a sort of a premeditated idea of what someone should sound like as a rapper or as a musician.
But potential for what, though? You said it would have potential to do what?
Well, I mean, in your case, inspire, because again, I think you have a level of mastery of lyrics and of the ability to be able to structure things in a way to tell stories and to tell them in interesting, more importantly as well, originality. That's the thing that comes up in all of your battles, is I never hear the same sort of scheme or I don't hear the same themes very often. And that's unbelievable considering how prolific you are. Whereas other rappers, you do hear the same sort of things cropping up from time to time, and you go, look, okay, they reworded it, but there's a running theme to their battles. The fact that you're able to produce things as prolifically as you are with the level of originality that you do, I have to think that's got an audience. I have to think that's got a bunch of people that would be so just, this is a breath of fresh air, man. This is something genuinely new.
Yeah, no, I hear, and I appreciate you saying that, man. And listen, I don't want to sound like I'm ragging on myself. The bars that I write to beats, for me, I think they're very good. And whatever, it might be arrogant, but I do think they are very high level. And not just oh, that's a quadruple entendre, but just in terms of actually writing lyrics to a song that are nice lyrics to listen to. I think I am good at it. But ultimately, I would almost rather just give them to someone, I'd rather just give them to someone else to rap and like say to them like, okay, here's how you rap it. Like, this is the cadence of this bit. This is where you have to breathe. This is the flow of this part. And then you can just crack on with that, man. Because like for me, it's like I say, man, my whole thing is like getting my, like in terms of motivation of battle rap, is getting my ability to a point where it's like, yeah, you are as good as you can be at that. And with music, I just don't think there's any way I could make something that I would like, because I'm just kind of like naturally limited by what my voice sounds like and what my accent is. Like I wouldn't listen to it. So it feels like, I don't know, it feels like kind of putting something out that you yourself don't like. I can't really put my finger on it, but it doesn't really like sit very well with me. You know what I mean?
Again, listening to your battles, one of the things that comes across is you seem to find sources from every different direction. I mean, I know I've made a few notes on things that I've noticed that you talk about, including MMA, gaming, and wrestling, which, by the way, big fans of all three. But I think the fans don't sleep on a lot of the stuff you talk about, even if they're not on board with you throughout the writing process, and I think some of the inspirations might not be lost on them, but again, the way you articulate it. So the potential's there for you to come in now. Again, if in your own mind, if it's just the the way it ultimately sounds, fair enough. But I think a lot of people would be just so enamored with the wordplay and with the concepts that you could bring to the table, man.
Quite possibly, man, and that's why I'm saying I would be more than happy if there's any like rappers out there that are listening that want some fucking mental bars. Then like just let me know. You can have them for free. Like I've already like, once I've finished writing it, like that's the fun part for me, man. Like
Okay.
I've got my enjoyment out of it. So if someone else wants the, I don't know, views or whatever, you can crack on. Like I don't really, it doesn't bother me.
If I had even an ounce of rhythm, I would take your bloody hand off. Unfortunately, I rhymed hustle with shuffle in my last interview. No one thought it was clever or cute, and there were only 2 people involved in that reception. So yeah.
Well, it does rhyme. It's a multi-syllable rhyme scheme. It's a 2-syllable rhyme scheme. But yeah.
Oh yes, but it was like hearing it as it was like a dad's speech at a wedding. It was fucking awful. If there's anyone that's worth the hustle, it's Shuffle. That's my only attempt at a rhyme in this whole fucking thing. I really toyed with making the intro rhyme. I mean, do you have any favorite memories of either the battles themselves or the preparations for battles, or any particular raps that you've devised and you've just really loved, like putting them together for one reason or another? Do you have any favorites there?
That's a great question. Favorite moments. Favorite moment probably from in a battle was it's a bang average answer, but it would have to be like the Shoemaker one. That was like, I couldn't fucking believe it, man. If you even watch it on the video, I'm like, I can't believe he's done it. And I mean, I did a lot of things in the writing process to make it as likely as possible for him to correct me, almost like a kind of like Darren Brown mind trick thing. Like, but like when it actually worked, I was like, holy shit, that actually fucking, I can't believe that worked.
Yo, you a coke sniffing, crack smoking, H banging glue taker who wants to Formula Ferrari like Shoemaker. Yo, yeah, yo, hey, pardon me, Schumacher. Dude's asking who slapped your big mouse new naga secret.
Like it was bonkers, and then knowing, because there are some times, and it's like a weird thing where you almost get a vibe like before you say a bar that this is about to like bang. Like, and I don't know if it's like an energy that you feel or something like shift, but that one, like when he said, Schumacher, I was like, fucking hell, this is about to go the fuck off. And like know it, because you're the only person in the room that knows that it's about to fucking go off. And then you say it, and then it just pandemonium. And it's like, that's fucking quality, man.
That was insanely sick.
Yeah. It was fun for me, man. Like, knowing what was gonna fucking happen before it happened. It's like, yeah, this is... So yeah, that would probably be my favorite moment from it about. In terms of like... Probably my favorite... One of my favorite moments from... And this isn't anything to do with preparation, but it was when I got booked to battle Bender. That was really big for me. Because I think Bender's the best ever. Like in terms of, in fact, no, I don't think that. Like I know that. And people can have like different opinions on who the best writer ever is, but I think there's a few people, and I would say I'm one of them, that are pretty qualified to make like a almost objective judgment on it, and it's him. Like I promise you, you speak to anyone who knows what they're talking about who the best writer is. If they know who Bender is, then they think it's him.
Because I'm not qualified. I agree in a lot of ways with what you said. In what sense do you put him on that pedestal then? What separated him from everybody else in your mind?
Well, for one, he was definitely like a pioneer in what was like actually like possible to do with words. And I don't mean like, okay, so like you kind of think that, all right, there obviously is like some limit like on what you can do with words because there are only so many words. So there has to be like a limit, and that is a true thing. There is like a limit, but like what that limit is was just like completely, like everyone's perception of what that limit is just completely changed with like what he did. Like a lot of people had tried to do the whole like related multis thing, and some people were like very good at it, but it was stuff like fucking like the WRC's like, oh, you look like Christian Bale if he survived a bombing of the British Rail. That's like a real example. Like they went through like all these things, and at the time it was like kind of groundbreaking. It was Thoros Nilmak versus Wash His Face and Possessed in the finals of the 2006 WRCs. They went through this whole, you look like Christian Bale if he survived a bombing of the British Rail, and all this stuff. And it was, at the time, it was groundbreaking. And people were like, wow, that it must be like the fucking zenith of what's like oh, a string of like words that could all be tied together and rhyme perfectly. And then Bender came out, and the techniques he were using, some of them were just like brand new that like no one had ever done before, and some of them were like just stuff that had been done, but to a level that you wouldn't even think like possible. That two things that rhyme so perfectly could be so related. The obvious example that everyone goes for is the atomic bomb designer, Dr. Robert Oppenheimer. Like, how is there something out there where the guy who designed the atomic bomb rhymes with designing the atomic bomb? Or like stargazing like Carl Sagan? Or like fucking I'm Noriega, like, sorry player, I'm Noriega, cross with Schwarzenegger, orchestrate your fate in the torture chamber. The way he like flips the syllables around and uses them almost like drum beats, but they're all like the same syllables. So like if you imagine like a 2-syllable multi like AB, he's like, it's all like, sounds like a perfectly like cogent sentence that you would say, but it's like AB, 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 BB, A, BA, AB, and it's just like, it's like listening to a fucking like jazz drummer or something with words. It's like just breathtaking. Like, listen, and even more so, but I think Bender is probably the only person, because you know I was talking about like lack of motivation for me now at this point. I think part of that comes from, I watch battle rap, and it's almost like, imagine you're watching the first magician that's ever lived. There's never been like another magician, and you're just watching him, and you don't get to like ask him any questions. You just have to watch it, and you watch it, and you practice, and you get it wrong, and you watch it, and you practice, and you get it wrong, and eventually, through watching it enough and practicing it enough, you can reverse engineer it, and you work out how the trick is done. Like, the trick isn't... It loses something once you've worked out like how it is that you do it. Bender is maybe the only person that I watch, and I'm like, I know how you've done that, but it still gives me that feeling of like, that's amazing, man. Like what you've done. And yeah, even like the technique. So I'll give you like one example of like a technique that was just like brand new. It was in one of these very early battles against Barracuda, and the bar was something like, I'm a supervillain with my arm cocked, spraying at your ride like a car wash. So till my heart stops, send the dork geeks and hard knocks, because I put an end to more dreams than alarm clocks. Now, if you ask people what the rhymes there are, they'll say, arm cocked, car wash, heart stopped, hard knocks, alarm clocks. But that isn't the rhyme. Like, that is the rhyme for the first two bars. He says, I'm a supervillain with my arm cocked, spraying at your ride like a car wash, so till my heart stops. And then the rhyme is, send the dorks, geeks, and hard knocks, because I put an end to more dreams than alarm clocks. So he takes the same like last two syllables, but stretches the last two bars into like an 8-syllable multi that the first 6 syllables are disguised in, so you don't hear it consciously, but subconsciously it makes it sound nicer. And that technique was just brand new, and it took like a long time for me to actually realize what he had done and why those 2 bars sounded as good as they did, because it was so like disguised.
The audience for battle rap has to be attentive, and they have to listen, and they have to have that knowledge of the circumstances. They have to have that appreciation for a performer to get their due. So one of the questions I was going to ask you, because this is probably something...
Sorry, can I just jump in there?
Of course, by all means, sorry.
I would say that is what separates Banter from people like me and Ilmac and Thesaurus and like Fresco and like other people that are like sort of revered mainly for their writing ability. With us, I would say yes, you do. You do need to be attentive and consciously appreciate what you're doing. With Bender, I don't think you did. I think he was so good at it that people even that didn't know what was going on could just appreciate it like sonically, like how it sounded. Do you know what I mean? It was almost like I say, that's what I compare him to. It's almost like a jazz drummer, right? Like, if you are a drummer, so in this analogy, that would be like, I guess, me, Ilmac, Thesaurus, people of that ilk. And you're watching like a jazz drummer, you're just like, the technique and ability to perform that is just insane. If you're not a jazz drummer, if you're not a drummer at all, like me, and you're listening to a jazz drummer, you're just like, that sounds incredible. And I think that's maybe like the heart of my point, like what made Bender so different than the rest of us.
Which is, I mean, that's fascinating to say, considering that again, that speaks to, because again, in battle rap, like with a lot of genres, there's obviously levels, but within battle rap, there just seems to be these very steep inclinations from one set of rappers to the next set of rappers to the next set of rappers, because of like you say, there's only so many words, there's only so many sentences, and the combinations get fewer and fewer each time, because the next person that spits something new, that's now something that you either can't say the same way, or you've got to find a different way of implementing it. But I guess the root of the question I was going to be was, is it hard to make sure that the audience can catch what you're saying. Like, do you sometimes find yourself writing almost too intricately, and you have to think, are people going to be able to pick up on it to the point where it's going to be worth saying, or is it going to be left in the ether because people just won't be able to follow it?
I think that's kind of like the like where I'm at with like my process now, where I'm trying to make it in a way like when I was describing like how I would construct a run now, like if you made me, that is like how I would go about it, and I think that allows kind of people to appreciate it on multiple levels. Like once you have a structure and know how to construct a structure in your head that almost like sounds good or feels right, with the different like arcs and peaks, the sort of, I hate using this term, but like for like the layman or whatever, that's what they'll enjoy out of it. That's what they'll get out of it. And the actual bars, like what you fill it in with, is like what the lyricists will get out of it.
Sure.
And I think that is kind of like the apex that you kind of need to strive for. That's kind of as good as you can really do in battle rap. So yeah, I would say you can't write too intricately that people won't get anything out of it. I'd say people who appreciate like that intricate writing will obviously get that out of it, but like the people who maybe don't appreciate the intricate writing won't get nothing out of it because you wrote too intricately. They won't get anything out of it because your structure was bad.
Okay, that's fair enough.
It's like the structure is kind of for maybe the people that appreciate or aren't quite like able to appreciate the lyrics to the level you require them to be. And the lyrics are kind of for the more hardcore people,
that's fair enough. I mean, the only thing that I would also say about battle, especially yours, I've had to rewatch a lot of your battles. If no other reason than, again, I'm not the most lyrical person. Sorry, I'm not a lyrical person. I'm not going to say the most because that implies that I have some degree of lyricism. I don't. But the fact that I've had to rewatch the battles is not because of any reason other than I love catching things that I missed the first time round, or going back having heard other battles and now understanding references that I didn't understand before, because then suddenly not only does the fact that things rhyme carry a respect level, but the fact that you're able to weave these narratives that then stretch across battles and across eras and across different performers, and it's a joy. It's one of the few art forms and few mediums where, again, having because full disclosure, I got into battle rap predominantly in 2018 and 19, I want to say. 2015 and 16 originally, then resurfaced 2018-19, then pandemic hit, and I was like, do you know what? I wonder what everyone's doing. And then sort of, oh wow, okay, they're starting up Premier Battles is really gaining steam and all the rest of this sort of stuff. One of the joys is the more battle rap you watch, the more you go back, the more you catch more things, which then makes you more excited for the stuff that comes. It's like this self-revolving, generating fandom that once you get into one battle and get really invested in a performer, you then want to know about their opponent, and then you want to know about their previous opponents, and sort of the fandom can kind of go from there. And I think that's why one of the things that I kept on catching with other people's battles is how often they emulate you. Because it happens more often the more I listen to fucking battle rap. I'm like, wait, I heard that. Soul said that. Or he said something that they're now emulating. And I think that's kind of an amazing legacy to have, because people probably are going to unconsciously do that going forward as well as doing it consciously, because of they just have this. Some of your stuff has such resonance, and it just sounds so cool, even if you take some of the words out and rechange them and apply them to a different opponent.
Yeah, no, I think. Well, I'd like to think that I've been able to influence or inspire some of the younger battlers coming up, and yeah, I don't want to like kind of like a kind of like semi-toxic thing in battle rap where you'd be like, oh, they're stans or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just trying to like copycat. And I think realistically, like, nothing's like truly original. You can put like your own original spin on it, but like ultimately, like, we're still doing battle rap, and whether everyone, like, whether they like it or not, has been influenced by like people in their writing style and how they approach this. And if I'm at a point like where I'm able to be an influence to other people, then that's a huge compliment, and I wish them all the best.
Well, I think you've created moments, man. I think, irrespective of people's, knowledge of your skill level, I think if they were to watch your battles, there's tons of individual moments that stand out, that give people that emotional connection to your performances, that maybe even while you're on stage and you don't have the same bombastic personality as another rapper, or you don't have the same flamboyance as another rapper, there are so many just these moments in time where you just watch and go, I'm going to remember this. This is going to be something that I'm going to carry forward in the next one when I'm watching the next battle and comparing and contrasting it, because I just think there's something so, even despite your skill level, so relatable to you as a performer. I think all of us can relate to this idea that we prepare for something and we work and work and work, and then when we get there, we don't want things spoiling it, even if it's the same reaction we're supposed to invoke. But I remember it was I can't remember which battle it was, but you got such a reaction from a bar. People were stopping you 3, 4, 5 times, and it's like, right, no, seriously, guys, come on, calm down. Right, I need to rap now. You gotta work with me here and let me rap. Yeah. But people just they loved you in that moment, and it was fantastic to watch, because it's almost, they love you in spite of you saying it. It's almost Monty Python-ish. Frankly, it's almost, I'm not the Messiah, guys. Only the Messiah would say that. Only the greatest rapper alive would say he's not the greatest rapper alive, and only a guy who dropped a solid burn on someone would say, right, guys, come on. It wasn't, look, it was hot fire, but it wasn't that hot fire. Let's move on, But there's something about that too that, again, speaks to just such a confidence and an assurity in what you're bringing to the table, that I think it's fucking amazing, man.
Thanks, man. I think like it's helpful to kind of have that for like when things aren't hitting. So like a good example would be like the second round against Shuffle or whatever. That's like one of like the favorite rounds I've written in like a while. Like in terms of like how difficult it was to write. Like it took a really long time to craft that, and like once I was finished with it, I was like so proud of it. And like I went through the whole thing and didn't really get much reaction, but I didn't really like. I was pretty like unperturbed at the fact that it didn't really get much reaction, because I was like, hey, whatever, man, I think this is sick. So I think that's maybe kind of another benefit of not chasing like what's zeitgeisty at the time and just doing like what you think is good, because like if it goes fucking horribly wrong and everyone hates it, like at least you'll like it. You know what I mean? At least you'll have that. Whereas if you like try and do something that you don't really believe in, but you want to do it just because it's popular and it doesn't go over well, then you've kind of got nothing. You have like something that no one else liked and you yourself don't even like. Whereas at least if it's something that you believe in, you can kind of stand behind it and be like, hey, well, whatever, man, I think I'm sick. That's the main thing.
100%. And the Shuffle battle, man, I mean, I knew going into that it would be, reaction-wise, it was always going to be difficult, because, I mean, like, he's self-referential to a fault. Like, even can we just let people fast forward through your bits to the YouTube thing?
Yeah.
Which, like, is harsh in a way, because, again, I think it is something that people did with battle rap for a long time, but whenever I hear people do that, I keep saying, like, you're denying yourself the person that you're watching the battle for, right? I get you want to watch their rounds, but you need to see what they come back from, because one of the things that really annoyed me about the judging of battle rap sometimes is, look, it's a performance. It's a subjective thing. There's no metric with which you measure the fire of a bar. Your first round against Cee Major, where you had a stumble, and that's what it was. It was not a choke, because you recovered and you finished the round, did not diminish the rest of it doesn't diminish what you performed.
Yo, this title match is me versus someone. Cause check the pose, I'm from 5, it's 9,000 men that don't have any hope. I seen 3 Qs as a kid, I wasn't selling dope, only Qs I've ever known. Pensions, dole and methadone. In my teens, the high street was boarded up abandoned buildings. One used to be the Institute, overrun by rats and pigeons. Lowest house prices in the UK thanks to Thatcher's Britain. Still don't chat your shit, like London's the only place the working classes live in. Smack addiction, got 'em on that 40 milligrams in liquid at the clinic. Looking like Anakin when the hand is missing, so...
All it does is it makes people, it breaks the illusion that I think some fans of battle rap have, which is that you turned up and freestyled it. And with all due respect, it's the same as a wrestling fan when I have to explain them, no, Elias is Ezekiel, okay, and it's just a thing they're doing. Everyone knows it's what they're doing, but we're supposed to buy into it for the suspension of disbelief and the enjoyment factor of the performance. But the judging element for you, I mean, again, you probably don't buy into a lot of the backwards and forwards of the title and positions within rap itself, so long as you're getting good opponents that you've got a lot to work with. But what about the fans and their perception of you as it pertains to how they approach you? Does that at all enter your mind when you're approaching a battle? Like, I need to win, if only because then I don't get people constantly saying to me, you choked in this battle, or you fell off, or any of these other weird platitudes or tropes that seem to be inherent with battle rap and its perceived legitimacy?
Definitely, like, earlier, like when I was younger, but I think that was just more being like a younger man and less sort of sure of myself.
Sure.
More than anything, you think you are a little bit more
You're still trying to find yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure, sensitive. And then when you're kind of to an extent like going through that like on camera, yeah, you can, I think, be a little bit more like sensitive to the opinions of others when you're younger. But I think like when I had the fucking absolute horror show when like I battled Caustic and just like had an absolute fucking stinker or whatever, seeing the reaction to that was I kind of think kind of like a turning point, like mentality wise for me, because I was like, that year I think I had literally done like, I think that was my 11th battle, and the 10 before that I think, well, in my opinion anyway, were pretty strong performances. And I did have like a lot of people at that time be like, yeah, people were very on side with me, and thought they were like being very positive. And yeah, after like I choked against Caustic, it just kind of all flipped around, and you know, the narrative kind of shifted to, oh, he was never that good. He like can't face adversity, and I was just kind of got to a point where I was like, well, realistically, if that is all it takes to completely kind of invalidate everything, you know, that I've done previously, then it's kind of like a fruitless endeavor chasing this, chasing validation from the same people that will, you know, turn on you if you do have a bad performance. And that is their right. I mean, they're fans of a product at the end of the day, and if you put out a bad product, they're under no obligation to enjoy it or support you through it. But at the same time, I'm under no obligation to care either way. And I think it's probably like a more healthy way to approach it. You can just kind of focus on putting out a performance that you're proud of. And I think when you do focus on that, like a byproduct of it is that people generally enjoy it anyway, because if you want to work hard enough at something that the thing that you produce is something that you'll be proud of, then chances are it'll be pretty good, and chances are people will like it. But I don't think that should ever be the aim. I think that way lies ruin. But,
I couldn't agree with you more. I think I can count on this hand the number of times where the negative feedback, actually engaging in it, irrespective of my own perception of my product, has actually yielded a positive result. And in both instances, because was just 2, it probably, I could have discerned that feedback in more positive ways. Actually kind of buying into the negativity of people and not believing in your own vision. I mean, because again, fans are fickle and they are influenced so easily sometimes by what they think everybody else thinks, rather than what their own perception of something is, or based on what their own experience of something is. So yeah, that's an interesting point that you raised there, considering that, like you said, I mean, that because you are 100% spot on, by the way, 10th of that year, and
Cool. Nice.
and I mean, like I couldn't tell you. My memory is probably worse than yours at this stage, and that I'm going to have to remind myself my name's Lorne tomorrow morning before I introduce myself to somebody. But that's fine. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But like, the body of work you put together, one bad day or one bad performance, I mean, you should almost demand more from an audience at that stage. But like you say, they have the right to be fickle if they paid their money, and that's. But at the same time, I still feel, you know.
No, I get you, but even if they paid their time, like ultimately, like I don't want to be like, oh, I did 9 good battles, so you shouldn't not enjoy this one. You should not voice your opinion on this one. You should just give me a break. I mean that, like I say, it's absolutely their right. It's their time. People's time is like an extremely valuable resource, and if they're going to spend half an hour of it watching me and it's not entertaining for them, then obviously that's not great. And I don't want it to come across as like that I have any like ill will or ill feeling towards them, or think that, you know what, I deserved more or anything like that, because it's not that. It's just it made me realize that that's what it is, and maybe that's the way that it should be. But if that is the way that it is, then tying my own sort of feelings of like self-worth to the opinions of that demographic is probably not the healthiest thing to do for myself. And that's why I'm saying it's kind of like a bit of a turning point, and where I was like, right, I'll focus on producing something that I'll like. And that kind of like speaks. It kind of circles back like to your battle rap judging thing, where the inherent problem, and this is kind of like emergent more recently, is a lot of the time the people I see that are like judging battles. It's like the fucking thing that Marco Pierre White said, like where he was. That's kind of mad off topic, but he's like, he got like his 3 Michelin stars or whatever, and then he was like, he just quit because he was like, ultimately, like, I'm being judged by people who know less than me,
right?
And that's like kind of what it is about like MMA, especially, and to a lesser extent battle rap. Obviously, battle rap's far more subjective than like MMA. They're both like have subjective elements, but battle rap far more so. So people who are perhaps like less knowledgeable, their opinion is comparatively like more valid than it would be like in MMA, because it's a higher degree of subjectivity. But yeah, especially in MMA, it's like you see these people, it's like they don't even know what they're watching, man. Like they have no idea. Like Reyes losing that decision is like the prime example. It's like, because what, ring generalship, that's like, if a round comes down to ring generalship, then it better have been close as fuck everywhere else. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, that's the point. Yeah, 100%. Is like you're judging it based on a preconception rather than did you consult what the rules are before the fight was. And yeah, one of the frustrating things I find about battle rap sometimes isn't the performances; it's watching the judges afterwards, because not only do I hate the word personally. Whenever someone starts a sentence with the word I personally, no, I'm listening to your fucking opinion from someone else. I'm listening to you, so it better be your fucking opinion. So don't preface it with this word that you're using to try and soften the blow. Just tell me what you fucking think. Yeah. But there's this thing of like I want to be bipartisan, but I also want to be favourable, but I also want to take in all these factors that have nothing to do with, right, what did you hear and how effective did you think it was? And irrespective of the crowd reaction, because I don't know if that should factor or not. So like the irregular nature of judges sometimes, because I can hear some of them literally going, listen, the crowd loved it, so I loved it. It's like, right, but we're counting on you to not react to the mum joke. We're counting on you to listen to that 16-syllable intrinsic line that everyone on the stage went, fucking hell, but the crowd were like, yeah, I got the mum joke though, I got. But that frustrates me in Battle Rap to no end, because there just doesn't seem to be a consistent margin whereby they're told, right, this is what you're listening out for, here's what we want you to award points for or give rounds based on.
It's incredibly difficult to judge it though. Like for like judging Battle Rap, it is so hard because there's like so many things. Like, because you're saying there, oh, the mum joke is the crowd loved it, so like I loved it, and yes, I agree that's not a great reason to like give someone credit, because like, oh well, they all enjoyed it, so it must have been good. But it's like in battle rap, there's so many different styles, and I don't think that just because the style that I do is much harder to do than one like that's more maybe comedic based or more like kind of, I don't want to like, because obviously there's people like Shuffle T that like, yeah, their main style is comedy, but they do it in an extremely, it's very difficult to do that style of comedy well.
Sure.
But like if it is just more kind of like base humor or whatever, it doesn't necessarily like have less value just because it's like simpler to execute. So it's very difficult to like judge a battle, and I think as time's gone on, people kind of care less about like the official decisions. I still like my battle raps being judged because I'm quite like a competitive person, and I like there to be like a winner and a loser, even if it doesn't have very much like value because it is so subjective. It's just like a fun thing to like have a winner and a loser. But
yeah, sure.
I think like as time's gone on, like the actual outcome of a judge's decision is born like less and less relevance to other people. Partly like I think as fans have become like more educated on it, they're more kind of like equipped to make their own decisions. So what these 5 people thought doesn't really bear as much weight as it might have done back in the day, where it was like quite new to them, and it was these experts were telling them who won. If that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
Do you like the idea of Premier Battles having a belt then?
Yeah, I think it's like pretty cool, man. I mean, I am like inherently competitive.
So you want that belt? You want that belt?
No.
You thinking of taking it through airports and train stations and shit, and them getting it out and saying what's this and all that sort of stuff?
Hey, who's to say I'd win it, man? Who's to say I'd win it?
Oh, come on! Right? Okay. Who's to say? I will say right now, you're winning that belt. But they're gonna have to have someone Paul Heyman style walk behind you everywhere you go, carrying that motherfucker for you.
Yeah, nah, like I say, man, and it's not to be like, but I mean, it's certainly not to be like, oh, I'm above that, because I mean, that was like a fucking big point of pride for me, was like winning the title and then defending it, and then when I lost it, like it sucked, like I didn't want to lose it. So yeah, it's certainly not to like talk down on Bizzo or be like, oh, I don't want the belt, or be like one of those people that are like, oh, I could take it if I wanted it, because I don't think that's the case. Like, I think he's like a very talented battler, and if we did battle, like I don't know what the outcome would be. But it's just, yeah, like I said, I'm kind of at a point where, because I know how the trick's done, I guess, like
Sure.
There's much less like motivation to perfect it.
If you
I
win the
actually
belt, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say I actually did help Koji's team out in Premier Battles. Like, did some sessions with them where like I talked them through like some of the techniques that I used and some of the actual nuts and bolts of like how you construct a round well. Kind of more like structure-based stuff rather than writing techniques. But that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing that. I think it is really fun to like share knowledge that you've accrued, especially knowledge that you've it's not knowledge that someone's taught you. It's something that like you've learned for yourself and then can like kind of pass on to people.
Sure.
So that was fun. I would actually quite like to do more of that. And that was probably more enjoyable for me than preparing for battles.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think, yeah.
Two final questions, but one thing I will just say: if you ever win the belt, I will volunteer my services to carry that thing around. Because I know you won't. I'll be the one standing behind and say, "Greatest ever! Look at this! Look at this! You don't have this. You suck! You suck! Soul has this, and you can't have it." I will be your unofficial guy you want to punch in the face, hype man.
Yeah,
I will volunteer myself. Well, if you pull a heel turn, I mean, I'm telling you, man, that beginning to your round is the Roman Reigns equivalent of him going out there, then booing him for 10 minutes. He doesn't say a word and just goes, "It's my yard now," puts the mic down and just walks off. That's what that is. It's the, like, everyone's, like, made up their minds, and then suddenly with one sentence of truth, they were like, "Actually, he is pretty good, isn't he? I suppose we will feel like dicks for booing him for 10 minutes now, don't we?" Because he said one line, and everyone's got nothing to say. So, yeah, I mean, listen, if you need anyone, I have a very punchable face. So if you do turn heel, I will gladly bear the brunt of that hatred, so that you can make the dastardly heel run away, and I can take the heat, and we'll save that for the blow. We'll take that. We'll let the blow off come from there. But that's actually one of my questions, by the way. Is final two questions, and then I will let you get back to your life because I've already taken up enough of it. God bless you. Shotty being co-owner of Premier, or being a prominent member of Premier Battles, I noticed a lot of the battle rappers have started dropping wrestling bars.
Sure.
Is his participation an influence on that, or is that just speaking to a fandom or a passion that you have for wrestling?
No, I've been doing wrestling bars for like quite some time. To speak frankly, they are quite a safe subject matter. And as like someone who grew up like in the Attitude Era, there is like quite an overlap like with the fandom. So while I don't purport to be like a fan of like modern wrestling, like I haven't watched it in quite some time. Like I did watch it like growing up and grew up in the Attitude Era and like know a lot about that period of wrestling. So it is quite like an easy well to draw from for like subject matter. For bars, because it's something that a lot of people that are into battle rap are of an age like where they grew up in the Attitude Era, so it 100%. Speaks to that kind of nostalgia. People like it. It's also like you get a much more visceral reaction if you reference if you reference Adolf Hitler, you'll get a much more visceral reaction than you will if you reference a butterfly. Do you know what I mean? Sure. And it's similar like with wrestling, like obviously it's physical and violent by nature, so that referencing elicits a certain set of emotion. That reference point elicits a certain set of emotions, which is generally conducive to a good reaction.
That's true. It certainly made my ears prick up in a couple of the battles that I listened to. It was Stone Cold Stunner line I seem to remember, and there was a few others. But wouldn't necessarily recommend watching the product if you value your brain cells these days. Like I said, they've got a guy on TV right now who was a previous guy, and they're trying to convince he's his own twin brother.
Okay. Right, well, that doesn't sound great.
No, it's fantastic. It's great shit. Fuck me.
Yeah.
Anyways, do you know what they did? They cut his hair and shaved his beard. That's it. Fucking hell. Anyways, wrestling fandom for you. Final question then. If in your own mind at least you're sort of reaching the pinnacle of your career as a battle rapper because of your skill set and what what in your own mind you want to accomplish, is that something that entices you then to continue in the scene as far as not influencing, that's maybe too strong a word for what you said, but certainly guiding, certainly adding some, look, I've been where you guys are, here's some things you can do, here's some things that I've found useful, if you want to rhyme or rap in a certain way, here's some ways you could, like as a mentor figure, is that something that you would consider doing?
Yeah, I'd love to do that, man. I'd love to anyone who's ever come to me and asked for advice on how to like write or rap or perform, like I've been pretty generous like with my time, because I enjoy doing it. Like for selfish reasons, I love like passing on the things that like I've found to work, because they have been like very hard earned, and it has all been like trial and error, and there's been a lot of like struggle in that, like kind of having to go back and try things and they don't work, and then you find something that works, and then you do it for a whole battle and that didn't go over well. So why didn't that go over well? Oh, I did too much of it. Okay, so how much is the right thing to do of it, and what do I do in the bits where I'm not doing that? Okay, let's try something else, and rinse and repeat for the last 12 years. So fuck, man, it's a really cool to be at this point, like where I am at a point where I'm like, I can actually construct like really solid rounds with a level of like repeatability, and being able to pass that on to people, and having like a grasp on it, like where I can actually like verbalize it and explain it to someone, is like, it's like an enjoyable thing for me. So as the answer to your question, I would love to do more of that.
Anyone that is, I mean, again, looking through your list of opponents in your career is just, it's a who's who of anyone that's even reached any level of prominence. And to say that you've come out on top more often than not, and to say that you've come away with the reverence of a lot of those individuals, speaks to the kind of wisdom and guidance you could offer a lot of these guys. And I really hope that is something that you decide to do with your time. If you don't continue to produce your own stuff, or you don't decide to take that and to share that, would be that would be invaluable to some of those younger guys, man. Like it'd be like, again, I know you're not following wrestling right now, but it's like the MJF equivalent. You're skipping that 15-year period where you're learning the scene and learning a lot of the intricacies and learning a lot of the crowd reactions and stuff, and now just producing the kind of stuff people want to see. That'd be insane, man.
Yeah, no, I'd love to do that. So if anyone out there does want any advice or guidance, then
just one final thing from me. Was a massive fan of a few of your battles, but when I finally saw you go up against Arsenal, and to say that I don't think I've ever seen Arsenal bullied before, but I certainly saw a side of. I remember kind of going into that rap having had my own preconceptions of his battles against Shotty and a few other individuals where it gets really like he's going to fight this person, and you stand your ground and you look him in the eye and you go backwards and forwards. Listen, man, like I can't tell you how fucking joyful it was watching that battle and seeing just you didn't flinch, you didn't change, you didn't amend your style or any, like you were you. And I think a lot of people would have wilted in that situation. They would have tried to amend it, or they would have tried to be just as aggressive and as visceral or as offensive as he can sometimes be, or at least try to be. So, like, I don't know. Considering he's named after the football team I support, I've always kind of resented that because like I'm a big Arsenal fan. I remember kind of going, he's named Arsenal. Boo. But listen, I've taken up enough of your time already. So listen, I want to say thank you so much, first and foremost, for taking the time to talk. And 90% of this interview has been me telling you how great you are. So I want to apologize to you and to the people at home watching this for trying to emphasize that fact. But I really feel the best interview ever. Well, I think I've made my case to be your hype man. When you win that belt, I think this interview will serve in retrospect as, what was that guy's name? The guy who spent 2 hours building me up. Yeah, get him in and he'll do a reasonable job carrying the belt for me. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, Soul, holy fuck. I can't believe I had the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you so much. Not that necessarily you want to plug anything necessarily, but I mean, where can people find you on social media? And have you got anything coming up that you want people to be aware of at all?
No, not anything coming up. If you do want to follow me on social media, it is at Soul Was Taken, just all one word. Twitter is really the only kind of social media outlet that I'm kind of active on, and even then, spotty. But definitely you can follow me there if you want to hear what I have to say about things for whatever reason. But what like I will say is that this has been a really impressive interview. I think you asked some very insightful questions.
Cut this here because we don't need to. He's talking rubbish. He's only just trying to butt me up now. He's not. I'm shit. I promise you, everybody, I'm shit. Terrible at my job. And the worst person ever.
Genuinely, like some of the questions that you've asked that haven't been asked in any other interviews in the 12 years I've been doing this, and I think it, speaks a lot to you as an interviewer, and I think you should keep at it because you're very good at it.
Don't know what to say.
That's all I wanted to say.
It's easy to do what I do when you have people who you can just talk about for and I literally could talk about you for days. Honestly, I have a list of battles here that I really wanted to talk to you about, but I am conscious that we've been going for nearly 2 hours, so I'm going to wrap it up here and say, Soul, thank you so much. And I don't really have an outro or something that I say to kind of. I don't have a slogan, so wubba lubba dub dub. I don't know if that works. I don't know.